Welcome to Jackie's Craft Table. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I have something kind of different for you in this video. You all know that I really love cards, creating them and getting them in the mail and sending them out, but I also really love postcards. This love of cards, and especially postcards, seems to run in my family. I'm going to show you a very old book of postcards that belonged to my Grandma Florence. She was born in 1907, so a lot of these postcards are over 100 years old. They are all very old-fashioned and charming looking, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today, as well as a project where I'm going to be creating my own postcards. So I was shopping at Blick Art Store, which I don't do very often because it's kind of far away from me. But when I was there, I ran across this cute little pad of postcard paper. And it's watercolor paper. It's blank on one side, and on the other side, it has a place for your stamp and your address and your little message. I'm also going to be using some products from Pretty Pink Posh. And I'll have the links to all of these products below and over on my blog. But I'm going to be using the little scarecrow from this set. I just thought that was so darling. And then I just love this sunflower stamp set. This small stamp set says Happy Thanksgiving, and I just adore all the little critters sitting around the table enjoying Thanksgiving together. Okay, let me show you this book first, and it's very old and faded, but I just love this book. It has definitely seen better days, but I'm going to show you all the postcards that she collected. Some of them have writing on them, some of them are blank. But all of them are really fun. This one I like in particular with the roses. A lot of them are florals. Many of them are embossed. And this one in particular has some beautiful gold detailing to it. I'll flip it over so you can see the other side. The embossing looks really pretty on this side too, and then you have a place for your stamp and your message, and then your address. I'm trying to be very careful with the pages in this book because they are falling apart. This one has a beautiful cross on it. Oh, and you gotta love that one, a creepy Santa. It's also embossed. I think there are a few creepy Santa ones in this book. And a lot of them, I noticed, have these little vignette scenes in the center. Here's an example with the star. So you'll have a shape in the middle with a little scene in it, and then something on the outside, mostly florals around it. I just loved this bird scene. And as I'm looking through these, I'm trying to choose one or two that I want to case and draw some inspiration from. And here is another creepy Santa one surrounded by all these kids. A lot of them have these cute little kids on them, like this little girl here in this postcard. They're all very Victorian looking. Here's another funny Santa. This one's not as creepy. A lot of Santas in these. And then I really loved this postcard with the little girl with the muff and the blue background behind her. Here's another one with the small vignette and the flowers. I also had a lot of fun reading the messages on the backs of some of these. The handwriting on some of them was hard to decipher, but it was fun seeing little insights into my grandmother's life when she was a child. My Grandma Florence died when I was 5, so I didn't have a lot of time to spend with her, but I do have some very fond memories of her. And then there are some really fun stories that my mom would tell me about her. And then this fun book of postcards that she collected. I really love all of the gold detailing on a lot of these, like this one in particular. And it's embossed as well. So it's going to be kind of a challenge coming up with a postcard because it is just like a one-layer card. You can't add any sequins or anything dimensional on it. but you still want to make it interesting to look at and fun. I love this postcard here with the stripes and the florals. There's just something about stripes and florals that I really love. And then, of course, these gorgeous roses. So much fun. Lots of little vignettes going on. This is a really charming Easter postcard here with the chicken and all her little chicks. I just love the soft coloring. I really love this postcard here. I think I'm going to use this one as an inspiration for one of my postcards. So I'm curious to know, do any of you collect postcards or have kept postcards from a family member? I do have my own collection of postcards that I have collected since I was a child, and I'm going to show you that here in a minute. And as you'll see, they are vastly different from the ones in my grandmother's book. I really love this postcard here. It's kind of modern looking with all of the flowers and this sentiment at the bottom. This next one here almost looks like it's on craft cardstock, and you could create your own postcards, of course. You don't have to use the pre-made ones. They do have to be under a certain size, and I believe it was 4.5 by 6 inches. Okay, so here is my book of postcards that I've collected since I was a child. And you'll see right away that the postcards are very different from my grandmother's. A lot of the postcards people have sent me, and I've kept them. And I think most of the postcards I have just collected myself. Here's one of Rob Lowe that my sister sent me back in the 80s. So all the different places that I visit, I will pick up a few postcards. And it kind of serves as a journal for me. I'm not very good at writing in my journal, but when I have postcards, I can remember the different places that I visited. I do have a lot of postcards that are from England. I took a trip out there when I was in college with a group of professors and students, and I just had the most wonderful time. It's so beautiful out there. And I picked up a postcard for each place we visited in England. Some of them are photographs like these, and then others are beautifully drawn illustrations of the different towns. So let me just quickly flip through a few more pages. I'm not going to show you all of them. I don't want to bore you to death. But they are super fun to collect and to mail out to people. For my first project, I'm going to use the little stamp set of the critters sitting around the table eating. And I'm going to do some embossing. It's not going to be as detailed as my grandmother's postcards, but I just wanted to add a little bit of interest to my postcard that way. I'm trying to center my little scene inside this scalloped oval die. And then I can stamp that out. I'm using some Claire VersaFine ink, and this one's called Fallen Leaves, and it's a very dark chocolate brown. I just love this ink. And it is waterproof, so it will be perfect for this project. I pulled out my little set of Daniel Smith watercolors and an aqua brush. And I have a paper towel ready so I can clean my brush in between the colors. And I'm going to start on my painting. A lot of the animals are going to be painted in soft browns, and I don't have a lot of browns in my collection, so I am going to mix up a lot of different colors for these critters. And then my bunny's going to be kind of white, but he turned out to be a little more gray than I'd have liked. I overdid the shading on the bunny. For this shading, I actually used a Daniel Smith color called Moon Glow, and it's a dark, soft purple color. It's very close to gray. I could have mixed up a gray color, but I was being lazy, so I thought I'm just going to shade the bunny with this purple. Since I'm coloring in a lot of brown animals, it's kind of a challenge making the piece interesting and not just a big brown blob. But I had a lot of fun sitting down and coloring in this cute little scene. I don't send out a lot of Happy Thanksgiving cards. Do any of you? I'm curious to know if you guys do. I'll probably end up sending this one out to my mom. My poor mom, she gets a lot of cards from me, and of course she has to keep them because they're from her favorite daughter. But I'm afraid she's running out of room to store all of these cards. Now that my coloring is done, I'm going to emboss the oval frame around this scene. And I put a shim in first, and then a cut-up mouse pad. It's really thin. And then I'm going to put my postcard and the die on top of the mouse pad and my plate on top of that. I also opened up my platform to tab 1 so that it was thinner, and it embossed just beautifully. It was kind of nerve-wracking because I was afraid that it would cut all the way through, but it worked just fine. Every die cutting machine is going to be different, so you'll have to practice with yours if you want to give this a try. I'm coming in with a white gel pen to add some highlights to my little scene. And I'm also going to pull out my black gel pen to add dots over their little eyes. This just brings life to the little critters. And then it needed something more around the edges. So I'm using my Delicata gold ink to do some ink blending around the edges of the scene. I pull out my pad of paper to do the rest of the ink blending. I just want to protect the underside of this postcard so I don't get any ink on it. And the paper will just kind of absorb the extra ink. I also come in with some vintage photo distress oxide to deepen the color a little bit. And that completes my first postcard. Super fun to create. I highly recommend giving these postcards a try. On postcard number 2, I'm going to be doing a lot of stamping. I already stamped the scarecrow in the center of my postcard, and he is going to be my little vignette scene. And then I'm going to stamp some sunflowers around him. I'm going to create some masks so that I can stamp out the leaves behind these sunflowers. And I'm using my Fallen Leaves ink again for this. I want to buy some more of the VersaFine Clair inks. Do any of you have experience with those inks? I know they come in a lot of different colors. This brown color is the only one I have, but I want to try some more out. I really love this ink. And now to stamp out the leaves. I'm stamping out several at a time just to save time. I'm just going to fill up this postcard with lots of flowers and leaves. There's not going to be a lot of white space left on this postcard. Now that all my stamping is done, I'm going to pull off the masks. This is always a fun part. And see all of the flowers with the leaves behind them. It looks so pretty. I'm going to use a square die to draw in a diamond around my scarecrow. I'm drawing it in with pencil first. And I'm going to allow some of the sunflower petals to overlap it. So I'm not going to draw lines over the petals. Now I can come in with my Copic multiliner and a ruler just to get a nice straight line and draw this out. So this is the little shape I decided to put around my scarecrow and my vignette. And I decided to stamp some more flowers behind the square or the diamond. I'm just protecting that with a Post-it note. And then a little leaf at the bottom. Next, I'm pulling out my Arteza watercolor brushes to color in this little scene. I also stamped my sentiment inside the little placard in front of the scarecrow. And I'm going to color that in with some browns. When I'm done with all my painting, I come in with another marker to go over the sentiment because it kind of got lost in this dark brown color. And now to color in the beautiful sunflowers, and I'm just using 3 different brushes to do this. I will have all of the colors listed over on my blog at jackiescrafttable.com. But I just love how bright and vibrant these flowers turned out. I'm trying not to use much water because I don't want this paper to be warped at all. So I'm blending the colors together just with the other markers and not with a water brush this time. And then the darkest color I'm using at the very base of the petals just to give it some nice dimension. For my leaves, I'm going to use 3 different colors on those. 2 greens, and then I'm going to use the same blue that I used on the scarecrow's shirt and pants. And this just adds a cute touch to the petals. The blue just looks pretty, just in select places on the leaves. For the centers of my leaves, I'm using a peach-colored watercolor brush and a chocolate brown. I'm just going to show the coloring of one flower because all of the others are just the same. Now I can finish off my scarecrow's hat. I wasn't sure what color to use on that, so I decided to use a purple. And I also come in with the same blue color to add some shadows and interest to his hat. I'm going to put some color behind my flowers as well as my scarecrow, but they're going to be different colors. And I wanted it to be a really pale blue, so I scribbled out one of my Arteza blue watercolor brushes onto my acrylic block and diluted it down with some water. And that's what I'm putting around the sunflowers. And then behind my scarecrow, I'm using a very pale green. A lot of the postcards used 2 different colors like this, one inside the vignette and a different one outside of it. I'm going to use an orange gel pen to add some polka dots to his shirt, just to add a little more interest, and then some white dots on his cheeks. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of highlighting around my flowers and the hat, and also his placard. And that finishes off my second postcard. I hope you all have enjoyed this kind of different video, and I hope you all were inspired to create some postcards of your own. I'm going to show you both of them here. I also went to my local post office and got some postcard stamps, and they have special stamps just for your postcards, which are less expensive. I like to buy stamps. I don't collect them, but I buy them and I use them up. It's always fun to see what selections they have there. I find it to be a really fun part of sending out cards and postcards in the mail, choosing these fun stamps to put on your different projects. Thanks for joining me, my crafty friends. I hope you all have a wonderful day and a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you get lots of time to sit down to create something awesome. Bye, everyone.